So I surprised myself, and there is a technological revolution going on, and the possibilities for energy policy and what is going on in Washington and to some extent in the states, although the state and city governments are far ahead of Washington, at least many of them. There's not much of an overlap between what is being discussed in Washington, which is billions of dollars of subsidies for nuclear power, subsidies for coal to liquids, subsidies for turning food into fuel. Turning corn into fuel is a bad thing to do, because you're turning fuel into food and food into fuel, and in the meantime you're applying fertilizers and having nitrous oxide emissions and turning up the soil and emitting CO2. Basic thrust in Washington does not correspond to the nature of the problem. What's the nature of the problem? We don't have one energy problem. We've got three energy problems. We have the problem of climate. We have the problem of the insecurity of oil supplies and the violence in the world around oil supplies. And you know, all of you come with a predisposition, most of you, to that effect. However, you might want to read an interesting op-ed by none other than your favorite Henry Kissinger in the Washington Post last year. And he said, this is a close paraphrase quoted in my book, we're not in Iraq as a favor to the people of Iraq, we're in Iraq to protect Western oil supplies from Iranian imperialism. The day when the United States could tell everybody to do as I say and not as I do, finished. Some of the smaller countries may not be able to make it stick, but certainly the larger countries can. Whether it is Brazil, or whether it is India, or whether it is China, they will make it stick. Did you know there is an active argument in Japan about making nuclear weapons? In 2002, this is the land of Hiroshima. In 2002, the leader of the Labor Party, Ichiro Ozawa, said that, and this is a paraphrase, that if China got too uppity, Japan should use its commercial nuclear capability to make thousands of nuclear weapons. In my estimate, Japan can go from zero weapons to a full-fledged nuclear weapon state with delivery capability in all of 6 months. The scope of the nuclear problem now is very serious. You have 7 nuclear power plants, nuclear reactors proposed for this state. That's why I've been touring it. 2 near Bay City, 2 near Victoria, 2 near Dallas, and 1, I understand, near Amarillo, maybe 2 units near Amarillo. We're entering a period of climate change. We are in a period of climate change, of more extremes of weather. Parts of Texas are going through a drought. Last year, a nuclear reactor was shut down in the TVA system, one of the Browns Ferry reactors, because of lack of water. So this is being promoted as something that's going to be reliable in the heat of the Texas summer, and sometimes during droughts, it may not at all be reliable. Now, nuclear waste, you're already stuck with quite a lot of spent fuel because the federal government has defaulted on its obligation, a contractual obligation, to start removing the nuclear waste by January 31, 1998. I suggested there should have been a 10th anniversary birthday cake for this breaking of the contract by the federal government with the utilities, even though the ratepayers are paying into that fund. And there's no sign as yet that issue will be resolved. The Department of Energy is 6 years late beyond the legal deadline to file a license application for the only repository that is being investigated, Yucca Mountain, which happens, in my opinion, to be the worst single repository site that has been investigated in this country, technically. Developers have no interest in creating a really efficient house, because they don't pay the energy bills. You have low interest in the energy bill when you buy the house. So the carbon dioxide, but we do have electrical safety rules, we have gas safety rules, we have water safety rules, but we have no planet safety rules. We need planet safety rules for development. We need building standards. Most of the CO2 emissions come from buildings, not cars. Commercial and residential buildings. Because consume a lot of electricity, and electricity is generated 50% from coal and so on. So when you take all that into account, buildings are number one source among all the, if you divvy up cars and so on, buildings are the number one source. So it's very important to have efficient buildings, efficient appliances, so on. We have more than enough wind energy also. Texas has more wind energy potential than all 104 nuclear power plants in the United States combined. Now, you do happen to be a leader in wind energy in the United States with more installed wind capacity, but we're just scratching the surface. We can quadruple the wind energy capacity in this country. Good technical approach to renewables. We can get it done, but somehow the hardest part is not the technology, the hardest part is not the economics. Wind energy already more economical than nuclear in many cases, or at least as economical. Nuclear costs are going to be high. That's why Wall Street doesn't want to fund nuclear. And that's why companies like NRG are waiting with the largest hat in hand in Washington for 100% loan guarantees and subsidies for this and subsidies for that and subsidies for license applications and production tax credits and you name it. Subsidies for insurance in case there are delays, and of course insurance in case there are accidents, which has been a subsidy since the beginning anyway. Solar energy is a little bit more expensive than wind or nuclear or coal today. We need to put a price on CO2 emissions and get rid of them. But the only new electricity source for which costs are coming down is solar. Wind is going up, nuclear is going up, coal is going up, gas already up. In 37 years, I've never said what I'm telling you now, because I don't like to be wrong in my technical judgments. And I have never had to yet withdraw a major technical conclusion that I put before the public on these issues in 37 years. So I don't want to start now. I don't know, I could be wrong. I will publish a correction if wrong. I promise you that. That's more important than being right and wrong. To correct a mistake is more important. The solar, I have never before said, like many of my environmental friends have done, that solar energy will solve the problem. Even 1.5 years ago, I told Dave that I didn't think so. But it seems clear that within very few years, the cost of solar will come down and be equivalent to nuclear, and beyond that, probably lower than nuclear. I have said that solar is likely to make nuclear energy obsolete about the time the first nuclear power plants of new generation are going to come online. So we're going to get a new generation of economic lemons that is going to tie up billions and billions of dollars of public money in a wrong technology. Just imagine, it's just a boiler. The nuclear reactor is just a kettle with a radioactive fire on the inside to boil the water. This is not a very sensible way to boil water if you can find some other way to do it.